In this lesson, we're going to cover FlexClone. FlexClone volume is a clone of another volume. That's why it's called FlexClone. It appears in the storage system as, and it's managed as a separate volume. So when you have our parent volumes and our FlexClone volumes, if you're looking in the GUI in System Manager and you go to the volume page for an SVM, you will see both the parent volume and the FlexClone volumes showing up on that volume page. They both show up, they're both managed as independent normal volumes. The FlexClone volume initially consists of the same data as its parent volume. So we're taking a clone of the parent. When we do it, they're the same. Changes can then be made to the FlexClone volume, and multiple clones can be taken of the same parent. FlexClones are typically used for application test and development. So the kind of use case for this is, let's say we've got a database and the database is in a volume and we want to take a copy of that volume so we can do testing on the database. The best way to do that on NetApp storage is by using FlexClone. The way that they work is a snapshot is taken of the parent volume, and that is used as the basis for the clone. Because they're based on a snapshot, FlexClone volumes can be created nearly instantaneously, and they initially take up no storage space, just like our normal snapshots. Only changes which are made to the FlexClone volume take up disk space, again like our normal snapshots. Doing it this way is much better than the traditional way of application test and development, where we copy the volume to new blocks on disk. If we do that, if it's a large volume, it's going to take a long time to do the copy. We have to wait for that. And also, after we've done it, we've got new copy of the volume on new blocks on disk, so it's going to be taking up double the disk space. And if we take multiple copies, multiple clones of that volume, each time we take a copy, it's going to be using up that same amount of disk space again. Using FlexClone is much better because we just take a snapshot, so it's instantaneous. We don't have to wait for the copy, and also when we first take it, it's size 0. It only starts to take up space as we make changes to that FlexClone volume. Looking at it in the diagram here, you can see that I have got my parent volume, which is vol.x, and I've made a FlexClone volume of vol.x, and I named it vol.x clone. When I first make the FlexClone, it will be exactly the same as the parent, so it will be all shared data blocks. I'm only going to have one copy of the blocks on disk. The FlexClone volume just uses the snapshot pointers. Over time, as the volumes change, you see over on the left here, I've got my unique volume X data blocks, and I've got my unique volume X clone data blocks as well. So that's going to start taking up additional space. But for the shared data blocks, I've still just got the one copy of those. So I'm going to be using the minimum amount of disk space possible. When I make the FlexClone volume, because it's using these shared blocks, both the parent volume and the FlexClone volume are going to be in the same aggregate. You can split the parent volume and the FlexClone volume into two physically separate volumes when the FlexClone volume is more different than similar to the parent volume. So you can see the example we've got here. It's using the same example as before, where we had the vol.x parent and the vol.x clone. Over time, we find that the clone is more different than similar to the parent. So when we get to that state, it's a good idea to split them. When you do split them, it's going to take some time to do the split operation because the shared data blocks will at that time be copied to new blocks on disk. Next, let's take a look at how to configure FlexClone volumes in the lab. FlexClone is a licensed feature, so that's the first thing I need to do is add the licenses. So I'm going to open up my text file that I've got my license codes in and find the codes for FlexClone. So I'll copy the license for node 1 and then paste that into a license add command. And I need to do it for node 2 as well. So I'll copy the code for node 2 and paste that in. So license add and paste it in. So that's FlexClone successfully licensed now. Let's have a look at the aggregates I've got on here with an aggregate show, and I can see I've already configured my data aggregates of 1 through to aggregate 4. So I'm going to create a new aggregate for this demo. So aggregate create, I'll call it aggregate 5, and I'll use a disk count of just 5 disks. And if I do an aggregate show for aggregate 5, I can see the available size is 2.64 gigabytes. And the total physical use size is 228 kilobytes, basically nothing because I haven't put any volumes in there yet. Next, let's do a volume show. And you can see I've got my volumes in there from the lab we did earlier about snapshots. Let's create a new volume, so vol create. I'll check the parameters. The vServer is department A. I'll call my volume vol1. The aggregate is aggregate 5, the one that I just created. I'll make it size, just a small size for the demo of 100 megabytes. The security style, I'll use Unix. We'll give it Unix permissions of 0777 to open up access just for the demo. The junction path, I'll give it the same name, so /vol1, and I want this to be thin provisioned, so I'll say space guarantee none. Next, let's jump onto our Linux client to put some data in here. So I'm on my Linux client and I'm logged in as the user FLACKBOX. I'm going to enter the command sudo su- to elevate my privileges up to root, just to save me typing in sudo all the time. And I'm going to mount the volume1 volume. So I need to make my local directory first. So I'll make that in mount /vol1. And then I'll mount 172.23.2.60 was the IP address I put on my NFS lif on the NetApp system, and the path is /vol1, and I'm going to mount that to /mount/vol1. And next I'm going to put some data in there, so I'll change directory into there and then use the command dd if equals /dev/0 of, I'll call the file1. I'll use a block size of 4 kilobytes and a count of 10,000 to make a 40 meg file, and I can see that that was copied in there. Okay. Next, let's have a look at the effect of this on the volume from the NetApp system. So I'll go back onto my NetApp CLI and do a volume show command. It was for vServer department A, and the volume was vol1. And it wants me to be a bit more specific, so volume show vServer department A and -volume vol1. And I can see that the file system size is 100 megabytes. The available size is 55 megabytes, and the used size is 40 megabytes, that file that I just wrote in there. If I scroll down, I can see the total physical used size is also 40 megabytes. If I do an aggregate show for aggregate 5 now, and scroll down, I can see that the total physical used size is 40 megabytes. So I've got that 100 megabyte volume in here, but it's thin provisioned and I'm only actually using 40 meg. Now I'm ready to create my FlexClone volume. So the command for that is vol clone, and I can see that I can create, show, and split. So let's do a vol clone create and check the parameters. This is going to be in vServer department A. And then FlexClone is the name that you want to name the FlexClone volume. So this is the child volume. And I'll call this volume1 clone. And then I say the parent volume, that's the volume that I'm making the clone of, and that is vol1 in our case. And hit enter. I'll now do a volume show for vServer department A, and the parent volume was vol1. Just to show you again, the file system size was 100 megabytes. The used size is 40 megabytes. And if we scroll down, we can see the total physical use size is also 40 megabytes. Now, if I do the same volume show command again, but this time for the FlexClone volume, which was vol1 clone, I can see the file system size is the same, 100 megabytes, and the used size is also 40 megabytes because it's a clone of the parent volume. But if I scroll down and we look at the total physical used size, where the parent volume was 40 megabytes, the FlexClone volume is basically 0. The reason for this is it's using a snapshot, so it's not taking up any space on disk. And if we do an aggregate show for aggregate 5 and scroll down to look at the total physical used size, I can see that it's still 40 megabytes. That's the size of the shared blocks being used by both the parent volume and the FlexClone volume.